Hello, Mindsetters. It is that time again. It's business studies. Hope you're up and ready. I am pumped up. My name is Abram. You should know by now, but I'm not alone. I'm with Anita.
Hi.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. Good,
Are you
thank
ready?
I'm ready. I hope you're ready.
I'm so pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
Because we've been having some conflict management that we needed to sort out. But
Absolutely.
finally, I hope after this lesson, we're going to sort it out.
Absolutely, I hope so too.
All right, what do you have for the Mindsetters?
Today we're going to look at conflict and how we're going to resolve conflict in a workplace. But I'll see you over there now.
All right, please go take your position.
Thank you.
Right, Mindsetters, I have a few things that I need to tell you. One is that this show is proudly sponsored by Macmillan, and you can get your notes on our website, which is learnextra.co.za/live. Second thing that you need to know is that you can chat with me, ask any questions that you would like to ask, and also help one another on our page. Facebook page, it is facebook.com/LearnExtra. And lastly, there are 5 things that you need to do for you to become our Mindsetter of the month. 1, you must become a team Mindsetter on our Facebook page. Like the page, be active on the page, and make sure that you help other people on the page. Fourthly, chat with me on the page. And lastly, you must be in school and learn more. And this time, Anita, it is your time.
Thank you so much, Abram. Welcome, guys. It's such a privilege for me to be here tonight. We're going to talk about conflict management in the workplace. So we firstly need to look at what is conflict. So there's not always bad conflict in a business. There's 2 types of conflict. You've got functional conflict and dysfunctional conflict. Functional conflict is good conflict. It's creative conflict. It's when something good comes out of the end. Where dysfunctional conflict is something that's bad and something that destroys relationships that you definitely don't want in your workplace. So if you look at this, it says, during this lesson, we're going to have a look at what conflict is. We're going to apply our management skills to resolve the conflict. We're going to look at problem solving. We're going to look at workplace forums. And then we're also going to look at some general questions and exam questions. Okay, guys, let's go. Just want to quickly do this. There we go. What is conflict? I just said to you, when people struggle and they clash and there's communication problems, it can often be about race, it can be about gender, it can be about a belief or a value. It's just generally when you rub someone up the wrong way. I don't know, Abram, have you ever had that you rub someone up the wrong way?
Ooh, that one. Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Daily.
And I think all of that happens in a
all bump.
workplace, and we need to know how to deal with this. So look at this. We said conflict can be seen as a struggle or a clash between individuals or a group. It can actually be groups, grade 11s against grade 12s. This conflict can arise because each person of the group holds different ideas or opinions, needs and desires, and this leads to tension, and tension is bad. Let's have a look here. Here's some examples of conflict. We can have stressful situations that causes conflict. We can have complaints. It's not nice when someone complains about you. If a teacher tells you that you did something bad, you really feel bad, and you want to stand up and say, no, but I didn't mean it like that. When your control is threatened, I often see that with my 5-year-old son. When I tell him you can't do something, he gets cross and he wants to put his foot down and tell me, yes, mommy, I can. And then we've got when we ask to follow orders. You guys will know that, especially in school. It's not always nice to wear school uniform, and it's not always nice to have to listen to the principal or your teachers, or you have to write a test. That can happen. And then mainly differences of opinion. I really like that one. My grade 11s, they'll know. I'm talking to them now. Designing matric jackets for next year. Oh, it's a big conflict happening there. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, in the workplace, of course we are in the workplace now. I'm using all the school examples. We need to look at situations that can cause conflict in the workplace. And our first one is always about salaries, always about money. I'm not paid enough. I don't get benefits. I want a car allowance. I need insurance to be paid for me. And the next one is my management affairs, policies and procedures. And this is when management decides we are now implementing a new rule and we're not happy about it. We don't want that. Lastly, oh, actually, no, not lastly. Labor relations. This involves the handling of disciplinary inquiries, grievances, dismissals, retrenchments, and that is a horrible aspect, guys. for people being retrenched, they're not feeling good. This causes conflict, and even between the other employees that are still left in the business, it really causes a lot of friction. Communication problems. I think anyone that's ever been in a form of a relationship, even if it's with your mom or your dad or your brothers or your sisters, will know that communication can often be a big disaster because you say something and then the other person takes it completely the wrong way. Let's look at personnel affairs. This includes my working conditions, my equipment, my facilities. Working conditions, very important. Some people will say, I'm not going to work here if there's no aircon in here, where other people are happy just to say, please, can I just have running water in my facility? Different people will have different issues with their working conditions. Then we've got the training matters. People want to go and they want to study, they want to be trained, they want to learn more, and then sometimes businesses are against it, and this can cause conflict. Okay, guys, let's carry on. Now we need to know, how are we actually going to solve this conflict? How are we going to deal with it and manage it? It's very important that we are aware, if you're going to be in the business one day, own your own business, manage your own business, that this is one of the things that you are going to deal with a lot. It is something that you spend some of your day, some of your week, and a lot of your days and your month on. Conflict levels can be minimized by the means of worker participation. Now that means if I get input from my workers, if I'm democratic in the way that I do things, I make someone part of my decision, they will be motivated to do it. It says to us here, effective and regular communication. I need to tell my employees what's happening, why am I doing this, so that they know what's going on. And then handling problems as soon as they occur. We know we don't do that because we just pretend that nothing's wrong and we just shove it under the carpet, but we need to take on that problem head on and we need to solve it as soon as it starts. And then obviously, I love this one, good discipline. Good discipline starts at home. You guys know that, hey? Moms and dads listening to the program, you need to be strict with your kids. Am I right?
That's all right.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's carry on to the next point. Conflict should not be avoided. Boys and girls in relationships, people that work in a business, we do not avoid conflict. We meet it head on. We sort it out. Talking, and let's get it over and done with. When conflict is not resolved in a controlled way, for example, by means of negotiation, it can result in industrial action. What is industrial action? Industrial action is what we definitely don't want when we've got a business. This can be a strike, this can be a lockout, this can be picketing. We definitely don't want to do that. We'll talk about that later. There are various methods now that we're going to look at when we handle conflict in the workplace. We're going to go into detail now with each one of these methods. Let's have a look. Negotiation. I first want to quickly give you a little bit of advice. There's an acronym that we call CCMA. It's the Commission of Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. Now, that acronym is so great because it tells you the whole process. It tells you the sequence in which the grievance process happens. The commission, that's the place, for conciliation, mediation, and arbitration. Where conciliation is basically the same as negotiation. It is where two parties come together, they sit down and they talk. They need to come to an agreement about a certain issue, a compromise about something. So someone's going to have to give up something. That's what we're saying here, if you have a look there. And often it's not that easy. When you feel very strong about your case and the other person feels very strong, no one wants to give up and no one wants to compromise. Okay, I'm throwing a spanner in the works here. Before we carry on with our mediation, I first need to explain to you, there's a term that we call collective bargaining. And you'll hear about this a lot, especially when you do the Labor Relations Act and the laws. You'll hear about something called collective bargaining. You need to know what it is, because they love asking this. They love saying, define collective bargaining, or what does it consist of? This means that it's a group of people that come face to face with management, and they want to try to solve their problems. So it's about negotiating. It's about talking. It's about give and take. And we call this collective bargaining. Now, where they say it's the group of people is usually a trade union. Trade unions represent employees because they've got more power. You, as one individual by yourself, you're not really going to make a difference if you go to your boss and you've got this big issue. He's not going to listen. But if it's a trade union that's there to represent 20,000 workers, he's going to listen to you. Okay, so look at this. A trade union's real strength lies in its collective power. What that means is it's got so many employees that it represents that it can say, I'm here representing 20,000 people. Conflict between management and trade unions arise from differences in their goals and value systems, as well as different methods used to achieve those goals. Trade unions are there to represent employees when they've got grievances. When they've got issues about salaries and working conditions, they will go to the employer and they're going to negotiate and try and solve this for the employees that's part of that trade union. Okay, so that was collective bargaining. Remember, we're busy talking about CCMA, the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. We said negotiation, similar to conciliation. If that didn't work, if people didn't want to give up something and compromise, we're now going to go into mediation, where mediation works as follows. You've got a neutral third party. Now, what is a neutral third party? It means it's someone that's not involved in this argument or dispute. Someone that's totally from the outside, that doesn't have an opinion about it, is going to come in, and this person's going to listen to both of those parties' cases. He's merely there to listen, and he's going to give advice. He's going to say, I think you should do this, I think you should do that, but it's still up to your original two parties to decide whether they're going to do that or not. It's not a legally binding decision. So now, it still didn't solve it. Those parties decided, no, they are not going to follow what this guy has said. Then we're going to go into arbitration, where arbitration is very similar to mediation, except it's a formal procedure, and it's legally binding. You have to listen to what an arbitrator says. It is a law. So now, if the arbitrator says, sorry, you are wrong, you are right, you need to listen to that. If you don't agree with that, you need to go to the higher courts to go and appeal against the arbitrator's decision. Okay, look at this, look at this, look at this. One of my favorite words, Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. It tells you the steps. Look at that. First you conciliate, then you mediate, and then you go to arbitration. Remember, arbitration is your last step. It's legally binding. If you don't like that decision, you need to go to a higher court to appeal that decision. Now, I just quickly also added a little point here. I said the CCMA is an independent institution, and they assist with the establishment of workplace forums. So that's my next question. What is a workplace forum? Have you ever heard about a workplace forum?
I'm not sure.
Not
Let me
sure.
not lie. I'm not sure.
Okay, we're going to have
But
a
I
look
think
at
I have
that.
an idea.
Yes.
It's whereby in a certain environment, a workplace, they have their own way of dealing. More like a disciplinary committee, but at a certain company, they have their own. I think something like that.
You're not far off. Let's have a look here what it is. Okay. Now, my introduction of how to solve issues in the workplace. We're going to look at 3 councils or forums that are available. Our first one we're going to talk about is a bargaining council. Then we're going to talk about, I just quickly want to show you here, we're going to talk about closed shop agreements. And lastly, we're going to talk about our workplace forums. We're going to go into detail with the workplace forums, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what it is. But first, I think we can take a break.
All right, before we take that break, I have some few comments that I need to share with you.
Thank you.
Firstly, it is from a mindsetter by the name of Jabu Bafana West Kajwa. Wow, what a long name. He says, I love the teacher. The teacher, she is fun. And one following that is from Tepisa saying, enjoying the lesson so far, plus the teacher is fun too. And
Yay.
guess what? Mindsetters, I asked you a question on Facebook that what are some of your experiences or situations that you've experienced and that led to conflict? Share with us and we'll share them after the break. Are you ready to hear more?
Absolutely. I look forward to your answers.
Right.
Thank you.
Keep them coming, Mindsetters, after the break. Welcome back, Mindsetters, business studians, if I may call you that way. Here's some info on the page that I told you about. Are you ready to hear this,
I'm
Anita?
Ready.
Right. One of the conflicts is from Litabo Maki. Litabo says, I had a conflict with my teacher because I didn't do my homework. That conflict led to a dispute. And the last one for now, my little sister and I got into a conflict because of money, as you've said earlier on.
Money. It's always money, eh?
Money is
guys, you
involved
must share
somewhere,
with your brothers
somehow.
and sisters.
Well, on that note, keep your comments and questions coming on our Facebook page while Anita is still on fire and having so much fun.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we're carrying on now. We were talking about methods of how we can solve the conflict in a business. We're looking at our three structures. We're starting with a bargaining council. What is a bargaining council? That's what I want to know firstly. A bargaining council is there to represent a certain industry in South Africa. You get industries for cars, you get industries for finance, you get industries in restaurants, and they are there to listen to all of the businesses that are in or fall under them. So they will represent and they will hear what people have to say in that sector, and they're going to go negotiate. The important thing that we need to remember is whatever is decided then, they are going to implement, and then it's a rule or sort of a regulation for all of the businesses that form a part of that sector. Okay, I want to show you guys, talk a little bit about what is a closed shop agreement. Look at what I said here. I said it must be a registered trade union. What is a registered trade union? It means that they've gone through the proper processes. It's not just some random guy at the side of the street that decided, oh, I'm going to be someone that's going to now get all the workers together. You need to have a process. Register it. Can't just be anyone. And remember, a trade union is 2 or more people. It's not just one guy by himself. That's going to look quite weird when you go outside and there's one guy doing a toy by himself, and they're going to think you're very strange. Okay, so back on track again. We said it's a registered trade union that represents the majority of the employees in a specific workplace in conjunction with. So together with an employer's organization, they go into collective agreement. They do negotiation, they come to an agreement, and this is known as a closed shop agreement. Such an agreement requires that all the employees covered by the agreements must become members of the trade union. So, did you guys see this? This is really important. It says, you have to become part of the trade union so that they can represent you, so that you are part of the negotiation here. Our next one, we're going to go into a bit of detail here with our workplace forums. Collective bargaining. Quickly, I just told you what it is. What is collective bargaining? It's when the employees face on, they talk to the management. I've got this problem. Please, can you do that? Collective bargaining. Remember this. Collective bargaining is our most effective way of resolving disputes. So it all comes down to talking. And you guys will know that when there's a problem in your life and your relationships, talk, and that will solve it. The most common problems which we need to resolve are the following: higher wages and better conditions of employment. Higher wages meaning, at the moment we have the bus strike that was happening, chaos. People don't have transport because the bus strikers are demanding a higher wage. So that's an example of that. And then better conditions of employment. We often hear about such bad conditions that people have to work in. They don't get lunch hours. They don't get paid overtime when they work at weekends. That's all bad. And you can get a trade union to go and represent you and your fellow employees to negotiate on behalf of you about that. It is difficult for workers who act against their employers individually. Do you remember now? I just said that. You can't be by yourself. Hello, I've got a problem. No. You and your fellow employees that form part of the trade union have bargaining power, so you can negotiate a strong case against your employer. A workplace forum is an elected organization consisting of employees in a particular workplace. Now, it's very important that the members of a workplace forum have to be representative of the employees at that particular workplace. In other words, I'm going to use my school, because you're all at school. There must be someone from the primary school, someone from the high school, and then you can take it further. You can say, I want a teacher that represents the grade 7s, the grade 8s, the grade 9s. So it must be a representative of how the structure works in your business. The workplace forum is there so that employees can talk to employers. They want the employer to listen, and they want to go with suggestions. And remember, it's not always a bad thing. They're not just going to complain. They might just go with a query. So let's quickly carry on here. It says, workplace forums ensure that workers have a say in decision-making that affect their working conditions. We're looking now at the purpose. Why is there a workplace forum? This prevents decision-making by employers only. And I think that's one of the worst things that can happen, is when the top management and the board of directors make sole decisions by themselves. As soon as you make the employees part of that, they're going to feel part of your business, they're going to be motivated, they're going to be working, and they're going to produce. They're going to work for you, and your productivity is going to go up. So we want that. We want that. We want to prevent the decision-making by our employers only. So we want to encourage worker participation in the decision-making. Let's look at the functions. We just looked at the purpose, now we're looking at the functions. We want to promote the interests of all our workers. That's why we need representatives of all of our grades or all of the sections in our business, because we need to make a decision that's going to benefit all of them, not just one particular section or one department in the workplace. We want to promote workplace efficiency. We want the people to work together. We want them to be happy, because remember, a happy worker is a productive worker. Consulting with the employers. Consulting isn't always a bad thing. Consulting can be talking. Consulting can just be listening. Please, can you listen to my suggestion? And taking part in decision making. I'm going to ask you a question. When employees are part of decision making, what type of leadership style do we use there? Can you tell me? Do you know?
Perhaps I can think about that. Maybe you can tell me.
It's the democratic leadership style. I think you at home, you should have known that. Am I right? Did you remember that? Because remember, the minutes that I don't take into consideration what people are saying, I'm an autocratic leader, which is not so nice. All right, we are quickly going to look here. A workplace forum has the right to be consulted by the employer. So in other words, when the employer wants to do some of the following, they can come to the workplace forum and discuss it with them, consult them, tell them about it. So let's look at this. It says when they're planning restructuring. In other words, when people are going to be moved from positions, when there's mergers. What is a merger? Do you guys know? Do you know what a merger is? This is when two companies come together. Some employees don't like that because now they're feeling threatened. Where's my job going? Am I still going to be working in the same department? Not always a nice feeling. So that's mergers. And they're saying management must discuss this with us. Then Our retrenchment, also not a nice process. Retrenchment is really harsh for people. So it's always nice if they could come discuss this with the workplace forum. This is what we propose, so that the workers feel that they are in the know of what's happening. Oh, I think one of the most discussed topics in a business, and I'm circling it, is bonuses. Once again, we're talking about money. Bonuses. Everyone wants a Christmas bonus and a performance bonus and a work performance incentive bonus, whatever. We like to hear the word bonus. And I think this is what the Workplace Forum wants to hear the most, is when the board of directors and the management talk about bonuses to us. Then we've got the health and safety measures. This is really important. They can give information to our representatives, and the representatives at turns, when we have meetings, can explain. At a meeting, it was told that this is a new health regulation, this is a new safety precaution, so that we ensure that all the workers in the business place knows exactly what's going on. And then lastly, we see that an employer must provide all information that will allow a workplace forum to consult and to make joint decisions effectively. So the management can't withhold information. They must provide it so that they can make informed decisions. Now, I quickly just want to show you guys here. There's something the employer may not provide information about, and this is privileged information. If there is a big trade secret, if you work for KFC, there's no ways that you can now go to the board of directors and say, I'm a representative at the workplace forum and I want to know what your secret recipe is. You can't do that. That is privileged information. Now, anything that violates a law or a court order, you can't expect them to break that because it's not legal. Anything that may harm a worker or an employer, you can't go fishing for confidential information. You can't do that. Anything that's personal to a worker, unless a worker allows it. So if someone is okay with the fact that we tell them you are pregnant, for instance, that's fine. But if the lady prefers that everyone at work doesn't know it, that's her baby. All right, we are carrying on. If an employer and a workplace forum disagree, the issue may be referred for arbitration or to the CCMA in writing. Very important. We spoke about it. What is arbitration? It's legally binding. And what? We need to appeal at a higher court if we don't agree with that decision. What did we say as CCMA, guys? Come. The Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. It must be in writing. You can't phone the CCMA and say, I've got this problem. You have to put it down on paper so that they've got it documented and they can reply to your problem. Okay, we are moving on. We are now going to look at a grievance procedure. What is a grievance? Oh, I've got such a problem. That is a grievance. The minute I'm unhappy about something, it's a grievance. Now we're looking
right,
at...
Anita, sorry about that. Just before we move away from the CCMA, I have a quick question.
Yes.
It's from Tepiso Koshmukwena. It says, since the issue will be taken to the CCMA, how long will the procedure take normally?
Oh, that depends. I think it depends on what the problem is, the procedure that they go through. Remember that they usually, the CCMA, they try and solve a case within 30 days. If that doesn't happen, they can communicate with you again, and they actually issue a certificate saying that they couldn't solve this dispute. So they try for 30 days, but it depends on what it is. It can go on for months.
So it depends on the problem.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
All right, cool. So let's quickly have a look here. Our grievance procedure, remember we just said your grievance is when you've got a problem. When workers are unhappy about work-related matters, let me just highlight this, work-related matters. Can you imagine? There's nothing worse than one of your workers coming to you saying, you know what, I am so unhappy because I don't have a couch in my living room. I don't really care. That is not a work-related issue. That's your problem at home. It's only for something that's wrong in the workplace that you can go and complain about. There should be a procedure to deal with this problem. So every workplace will have a procedure or a policy. And maybe you know this at your school. Maybe they say to you, if you've got a problem, you need to go to your registered teacher or you go to your grade leader. You know what procedure to follow if you're unhappy. Now, it says, grievance procedures are an important means for this purpose, particularly to ensure that agreements are implemented. The grievance procedure offers the workers a channel for expressing their dissatisfaction or feelings of injustice. So that is your time to go and voice the fact that you are not earning enough, you are not getting enough leave, you are not getting maternity leave. You do it according to the procedure that they've got at the business. A dispute only arises once the grievance has run its full course without any agreement. So up to then, we don't call it a dispute. It is a grievance, it's a problem, it's an issue. So it says, if it's run its full course without an agreement that was reached, then we sit with a dispute. Workers should be informed during their induction. Ooh, I like this word. Let's quickly talk about it. What is induction? Who knows? Human resources. What does it mean? Do you know when you're at a new job and you are inducted?
More like when you're doing your first year, they take you through on what's happening.
Absolutely, 100%. So remember when you're new in the workplace, when you're new at school, they take you on a little tour, they show you what the business is like, they introduce you to everyone and the policies and procedures, and they're saying when new people are inducted or introduced to the business, you should explain all of these procedures to them. Okay, so this is just a summary of what we've spoken about now, where we said, firstly, I can discuss it with a supervisor. If I've got a problem, you can go to your supervisor, you can discuss it. Then in writing, if this isn't solved, we put it in writing, and it's a formal complaint, and then we get a neutral third party that's going to help us solve it.
Right, on that note, I think we're about to take a net break, but our pages just have been buzzing.
Awesome.
Great comments coming through. Firstly, a shout out from Zane saying, shout out to my favorite teacher, you're awesome, ma'am. And the last one says, really the teacher over there is really interesting. Please may she come to and teach at my school. I promise her 100%.
Wow, that
So
sounds great.
that's from Mukele Lihlono. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
right after the break.
Thanks.
Welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you're still pumped up and learning a lot about conflict management. I have posted a fact or a myth, you can tell me, on the page. And I'll also ask you this, Anita. It says 10% of conflict is due to difference in opinion, and 90% is due to wrong tone of voice.
Wow, that is
Is it
very
true?
true. I think it's true. Because remember, it's like when you perceive something in the wrong way. Yeah.
Especially when we're chatting and texting. I've seen that a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you can't hear the person when they're talking.
So true. Mindsetters, let's get into questions now. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, guys, we're going to quickly look at exam questions, possible questions that they can ask about conflict resolution, conflict management. Our first question, we're going to read through this. It says, Peter is the marketing manager of a bush lodge in King Williamstown. He employs 3 workers. Okay, so I'm just going to underline our key points here. It's 3 workers, Vusi, Jane, and Busi. He dislikes Vusi. That's not nice. And he treats him differently from the 2 female employees. He requires Vusi to work on weekends and to work overtime without payment. But he pays the other 2 workers for weekends and overtime worked. Vusi is considering quitting his job. Oh, that's terrible. If he is not transferred to another department. Okay, so let's quickly go look here. It says, state the main causes of the conflict in the case study above. So look at this. In the case study, guys, they're saying state, so that means we're just going to name it, we're just going to mention it, we don't need to discuss it, and we need to take it from this case study. So look at this. I actually underlined it. I said to us, he needs to work on weekends, and he needs to work overtime, and he's not paid for it. So let's quickly fill it in here. He needs to work on weekends, and he is not paid overtime. Okay, let's see what question B says. It says, name 3, and they put this in bold print, 3 other causes, not from the case study. It's telling you very specifically something else in life, something in a business situation that can cause conflict in the workplace. Now, please, guys, it must be in the workplace. You can't go and make up your own thing now and say, when my brother takes the remote and I can't watch Revenge, and no, in the workplace. So give us 3 examples. Think, quickly, 2 seconds. All right, I'm going to tell you. We said here, this was about working overtime and not being paid. I'm going to say communication problems. Because remember, when people communicate, there can often be unclear lines, and this can cause conflict. What about culture? I think culture can cause conflict when people don't understand each other's cultures, they're not embracing the diversity. Cultures. What else can you think of?
What about the proper working system layout in terms of time also?
Nice.
Because there's a problem with being paid the overtime there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So systems overall, policies, procedures. Ooh. Writing like a real teacher, eh? Okay, let's carry on to question number C. It says, give Vusi advice on the different ways in which he can overcome his dissatisfaction as an employee at the Bush Lodge. Now it says, give him advice. That can't just be one sentence or one point. You need to look at the question. Obviously, we also need to look at mark allocation. In the exams, you need to look at how many marks this is for. Instance, if this was 2 marks, you could give 2 short points, could be a 10-mark question, and you'd have to give me a lot of advice about what he can do. So my opinion says he can now go and have a conversation with senior management. Because remember, we said it's informal discussion the first time that we're unhappy about something. And the next step, if this doesn't solve the problem, he goes to senior management and he hands in a written appeal. He states his problem in writing. Writing. And then lastly, if that didn't work, they can get a neutral third party. And I'm going to write CCMA because then you know the steps that he needs to go through. Conciliation, mediation, and arbitration. You remember that? You know that I would ask that. I love that. CCMA, Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. Let's carry on. That was the end of our first question. Second question for today. Oh, this is a long case study. It says the management of Leduma Limited was suspicious. I like that. Suspicious, it's a clue, about the behavior of certain factory workers whom they suspected of being under the influence of either drugs or alcohol. During the past 7 months, 3 employees who were allegedly using drugs on duty were dismissed by management immediately. This was a concern because it led to serious conflict between management and employees in the workplace, lower productivity and low morale amongst the workforce. The 3 dismissed workers submitted written statements to the union claiming that they did not use drugs while on duty. The company met with the union through the workplace forum and was requested to reinstate, I'm going to talk about that word now, the 3 employees. Leduma Limited had no policy, oh, very bad, in place. A formal disciplinary hearing regarding their dismissal was not held, and there was no evidence, ooh, very important, guys, no evidence provided by the company as reasons for dismissal. So let's look at question A. It says, name any two, look in brackets or in capitals, there's two, and it says name any two causes of conflict from the case study above. So we said that there was the suspicion of drugs and alcohol. And then there was conflict between management and the employees when they dismissed those 3 workers. So I'm going to say after the dismissal, just look how they asked this question. They said name. They didn't say discuss. Name is merely stating something. You would get your mark for saying that, and you would get your mark for saying that because you named it. You didn't have to explain it, discuss it, analyze it. And once again, they told you very nicely, only 2. Let's look at question number B. State 5 steps. State. Once again, state is the same as name, give, list. It's not discussing it. State 5 steps that management should follow when resolving conflict in the workplace. We spoke about this already. We said they must listen. They can have an individual little talk, informal talk. They must listen to the complaints. Then, if that doesn't work, they can bring in a neutral third party. We can look at our methods. We spoke about it earlier. We said they can negotiate. They can try and solve this problem by coming to a consensus. They can mediate. They can get in a neutral third party that's going to give advice, but it's still up to those original parties to decide whether they're going to accept it or not. And then lastly, the last resort, if nothing happens and nothing helps, they can have an arbitrator come in to make the legally binding decision. Remember, it's a law. Okay, so let's quickly fill that in. It says the 5 steps, what we can do is we can firstly just listen, and he's going to talk to us. We can have negotiation. We can have conciliation. And then mediation and arbitration. I really hope that you guys are going to remember the CCMA and what it stands for. If there's one thing that you learned in this lesson, I hope it's that. Okay, now it says, describe the functions of the workplace forum. We spoke about the workplace forum. Let's just quickly listen again. What was the workplace forum? It is when we have a representative out of the different sections in the business that's going to be able to talk to management, consult them, negotiate with them about issues and concerns. So they say here, describe the functions. Why are they there? They are there to ensure that workers are part of decision making. So we need to make them a part of decision making. And then what do we also want them to do? We want them to communicate. We want them to tell us what's going on and consult with us. Tell us about certain procedures that's going to happen in the business. So we always want them to consult us. All right, guys, the last question. Number D, it says, outline ways that Laduma Limited could use to avoid the conflict that arose between staff and management as a result of the dismissal. So we're asking here, what could they have done differently for the workers not to be upset about this dismissal? Now, if you remember when we read through that case study, you see that there was only a suspicion. They didn't even have proof that this was happening. So obviously all their friends that was working there, they were very cross. They were upset that these people were fired. Communication is really important. They should have communicated to the other workers saying, this is what happened, this is why they were asked to leave, and keep an open channel of communication. They could have solved that in a better way, I think. Okay, let's move on to our last question for the night. It says here, the Communication Workers Union, which represents 23,000 telecom workers in wage negotiations, declared a dispute with the CCMA. Ha, love that word, guys. A pay dispute between management and the trade union failed, and strike action may now result. 6,000 jobs were already cut last year. So 6,000, that's a heck of a lot, were already cut last year in anticipation of the introduction of the country's second fixed line operator. Who is that? You guys need to know that. Who's our second operator? Telkom and who? Neotel. Nice. I'm just going to write that there. Neotel. Okay, so now let's look at the question. It says, name the trade union involved in the disputes. We get it here. Very easy. The Communication Workers Union. You take it straight out of the case study and you simply state it there. Then it says to us, what is the main cause of the conflict? Let's go back here now. Was it about wages? Because look what it says. The Communication Workers Union, which represents 23,000 telecom workers in wage negotiations. So they did. They already represented them when they spoke about wages, declared a dispute with the CCMA. A pay dispute. Look at that. A pay dispute. So there was an issue about that because of salaries. Between management and the trade union failed, and now they were going to strike. Okay, so let's go back to the question. It says, what is the main cause of the conflict? That would be wage disputes. Always about money, eh, guys? Okay, let's look at our next question. Question number C says, why did the union declare a dispute with the CCMA? Because it said they could no longer sort this out. They did negotiate. The trade union spoke to the employers. Nothing happened. Then they went in writing to the CCMA and said, we have a problem. We need you to help us sort this out. Okay, so they were in deadlock with the employer. What is the CCMA? At the end of this lesson, I really hope that you know what the CCMA is. I'm going to recap. The Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. Nice. Did you guys know that at home? And I'm already boring you. Don't worry, I'm almost finished.
And you love the term.
I do. CCMA. CCMA. Okay. And how can the CCMA assist in resolving this dispute? Remember we said when we don't have anyone else that can help us inside the business, we've tried everything. We've had meetings. We've had neutral parties listen to this. We're now going to go to the CCMA in writing before strikes happen. We don't want strikes to happen. Do you remember earlier in the lesson I said to you that we're going to talk about a term called industrial action? Strikes, picketing, lockouts. That is such a negative form of showing your aggression. And you guys would have seen it on TV often. When people are striking, they're violent and they break things and toying outside. That is the last resort because we want the CCMA to try and solve this problem for us. So that's the main point of why we wanted to go there. So that is our questions. That's our exam questions that we've done. Are there any other questions from this side?
So many questions that I need to give you.
Oh, okay. I hope I can answer them.
Slow. There's the first one that says, right, it's a great comment. You're an amazing teacher. Actually, the other question, it says, when complaining about something within the workplace, is there some things that shouldn't be asked?
I don't think so. I think if it's work-related, it can be discussed. Obviously, remember we stated on the board as well, it must be a work-related issue. It can't be something of your personal life, and you can't be cross because they don't want to pay for you to go on a babysitter course, but you are working for architects. It has to be something work-related that you cross about. And definitely, I would say you can. You can ask them about anything.
All right, feel free, mindsetters. Right, I have another interesting comment from Tesh saying, "You're an amazing ma'am. Your grade 10s just love you to death. Best business teacher ever."
Thanks, guys.
Right, another one, it's from Sabelo Maldala saying, "Wow, ma'am, you're good in what you're doing. You can always teach me."
Oh,
Right.
shame.
So
Thank
great,
you.
yeah, great comments from the mindsetters. And I must urge you guys that if you're having any questions, because some mindsetters are up and ready for their exams, I'll give you a comment from one of the mindsetters. Make sure that you let us know. If you can't get over our Facebook page, of which is simple, facebook.com/learn extra, you can just email us, helpdesk@mindset@learnextra.co.za. This is the comment. It's from Kerry and Zach. It says, "Gonna ace those exams. Thanks, ma'am. That's my teacher." So make sure that you also, mindsetter, is ready for your exams and up to face those exams.
Awesome.
But before we get to that, the exam, and we just treated some of the questions from the exam papers.
Yes.
What are some of the important aspects that people should be looking at, especially answering the case studies on business studies?
Absolutely. I think case studies is always a problem for you guys. The minute that you see something that you're not familiar with, it tends to really stress you out. And I think the most important bit is just remember the theory that we taught you. Just think back to what you learned in class. Take it and apply it. Always have a highlighter. That's the key. Always have a highlighter, underline those important points, and then it will come out to you what the answer is. But I think maybe just to wrap up, because we're almost out of time, is just quickly to say we spoke about conflict in the workplace. We said not all conflict is bad conflict. Remember, we said some can be like really creative conflict, and not always bad things come out of conflict. We spoke about how to solve conflict in the workplace, and we spoke about trade unions, a little bit of workplace forums, and I really hope that you guys learned something today.
Right, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Anita. I had so much fun, especially on the page, hearing mindsetters saying, "You just rock and you're just fun."
Thank
But
you.
also, I have some mindsetters having a negative effect when it comes to, or rather mindset when it comes to facing their exams.
Yeah.
And I must say this, that to matriculants, what are some of the best tips that could help them face the exams now, apart from dealing with their own personal conflicts, but how can they face the exam question papers in general, not just the case study?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing, Matrix, at this time of the year is just to study. You need to go home every day and you need to do the work that the teacher did in class with you guys. There's no ways that after listening to something once that you're going to remember it. You need to make sure that you go home, read through it again, and if you don't understand something, go back to your teacher or tune into our program and listen to the topic again and make sure that you understand it 100%. And the key with business study is to study beforehand. You cannot study the night before.
Well said on that one. I certainly had a great
Thank
time
you.
with you,
I
and
did as
see
well.
you some other time.
Thanks so much.
Right, mindsetters, here's also another awesome opportunity. You can become our mindsetter of the month. All you need to do, go over our Facebook, of our website, which is learnextra.co.za/live. Otherwise, thank you very much to our sponsor, Macmillan, and thanks to you for tuning in and learning a lot. I just want to say, keep on believing in yourselves. Bye.